Thank you for joining us once again on PM Express. Tonight, my guest is Dr. Marcus Sibe Yeboah. He is a chairman of the Finance Committee in Parliament and a member of Parliament for a constituency where he will no longer, for 2020, get the opportunity to contest and represent. This is a new job in South. Mr. Sibe, thank you for your time here on PM Express.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that you could join me. I mean, how has it been since the primaries?
Okay, so Parliament was in session before we broke off for the primaries, and immediately following, we had to continue with work. So the Tuesday thereafter, I was here, and for the last 4 weeks, we've been inundated with work. So that's what I've been doing.
So you came right into the House after the weekend of the primaries?
Yes.
To work?
Yes.
But that must have been very straight into it. I mean, a lot of your colleagues needed some time to recover.
Yes, I psyched myself that this was not going to be the end of the world. So the moment the results came in, I drove back to Accra. That 1 hour journey from Akufo Addo to Accra was good for me. By the time I got back, I had gotten over it. So.
Oh, it took you 1 hour to get over the defeat?
Yeah, I drove 1 hour from Akufo Addo to Accra, and then that was it.
Was it that you knew this was going to happen, and even before the elections, you had accepted the fate?
No, we went in with a good chance to win, but in the last days, I think things turned around, and this was a repeat of the elections of 2016. My main contestant had run against me in 2016. So the same issues played out again, and I think this time around he found favor with the delegates, and so I just wish him well.
Okay, so he was the same candidate, opponent in the primary of 2016?
Yeah, by the time there were 4 of us.
Okay.
But this time around there were only 2 of us.
Okay.
So he had run against me previously.
Okay. I mean, was it just down to the delegates preferring him over you?
I think we have to do some introspection. If you go into an election and you have 105 seats up for grabs and then 42 incumbents lose, that's about 42% of those who went into elections losing. It might not just be me as a person losing, but there must be something going on in our primaries contest that would have to take a look at again. I'm sure if many more had also been thrown in there, the numbers could have gone up. So 42% out of those who contested losing, that's huge.
What's your best guess as in why this phenomenon emerged in the MPP primary?
I think there's this sense of you've done your bit. So give an opportunity to someone else to also contribute his quota. That's what I think. Because
delegates were fed up with the likes of yourself and your colleagues?
You had first termers losing. You had second termers like myself losing. You had third termers, fourth termers. So it
didn't quite seem to follow a parting. I mean, because you would think that maybe it will happen to those who've been in Parliament at least for more than a term.
Exactly.
But you had people who had just been there for 4 years.
Yes.
Also been knocked off.
Yes. So that's why I'm saying we'll have to do some introspection and then come to get some political scientists to really study what's happening in the party.
I'm curious. It's been quite a few weeks. You might have done some personal introspection.
So, New Job in South, we had our first MP. So my dad ran, was the candidate in 1992. The
for
election,
MPP?
yes, and the MPP boycotted the election.
Yeah.
So he didn't run again. Then we had Honorable Yaberima. He did 3 terms. Then we had Honorable B.B. Boatin do 1 term. I came in, did 2 terms. And so there's a constituency that has seen a lot of attrition, if you like. And so I'm not surprised that there are some constituencies that have had maybe 1 or 2 changes over the period. But I would be if I bring in my dad, then I would be the 5th We have had 5 in the 7 parliaments already. Okay, so even though we boycotted 92, we had a candidate. It changed in 96. It changed again. It changed when I came in. So going into the 8th parliament, New Jamin South has had 5 aspirants, or if you like, candidates.
Many who looked at your constituency, it was one of those constituencies many looked at, including myself as a political watcher, thought this, for you, the writings were on the wall. Did you see that too?
That's what I'm saying. It was always going to be a close contest. We knew it was a close contest, and I'm sure if you asked the victor, he will say same, that he didn't get it easy. It's always been a constituency fiercely contested, and so I'm not surprised though that I lost. But we went in with a.
So you knew you were going to lose? No,
we went in thinking we were going to win, but it was a close election going into it, and so we were prepared for any outcome.
You said things changed a few days to the election.
You recall that I was complaining about changes in the album.
I know you filed a formal petition with the party.
Yeah, so there were so many things going on. There are people who voted in the election who had no business voting, but we didn't want to contest some of these things because in the end I got about 34%, and so some of these votes here and there were not going to change the outcome.
Did you, let me put this bluntly, because I'm a political watcher, we hear things, we speak to people. Did you offend the powers that be in your party?
Who would be the powers? There's the government, which will be the executive from the Jubilee House. There's the National Party. There's the regional party. There's the local constituency party. So who would be the powers that be, Mind you, this is not the first time I ran. I ran in 2012 against an incumbent and I won. Again in 2016 against the same opponent who won this time around, I won. So I have taken out an incumbent MP, defended my seat. This was the 3rd time trying, and so I don't want to read meanings into the outcome.
So you started in 2012,
yes,
and then 2016. The only difference now is that the party is incumbent and in power, and people look at that and say that is the only factor that has changed since you actually attacked this. And they say maybe Mr. Sibwe fell out of favor with those in power.
Well,
at Jubilee House.
I don't know. But I think if I had a chance to do it all over again, my politics wouldn't change much. I like the way I've done my politics at the local level, at the national level, and it has served me well. So I would rather go out the way I've worked, and my work speaks for itself.
Were you possibly too good for politics the way it's done in Ghana, especially as a chair of the finance committee, possibly one of the most important committees in the House?
Maybe you in the media would see this as an important committee, but in the constituency, they think, oh, the guy couldn't even get a ministerial position. Okay, so people don't attach a lot of importance to these committee chairmanship. That's why we've lost about 10 chairmen. The education chairman is gone. Communications, defense and interior, health, agriculture, finance, constitutional, legal, trade. Almost all the major committees the chairman lost. Now, if I look through the 42 that lost the primaries, only about 5 are ministers or deputies. Only about 5 are ministers or deputy ministers. So maybe that would be one of the reasons. Back home, they think that, oh, if you're a minister or a deputy minister, then there's a pride of place for you in the government. But if you are left in parliament, you are a committee chairman, then not so much importance is attached to your work. So all the chairmen are gone. Save trade, energy and foreign affairs, all the major committee chairmen are gone.
Would you prefer to become a minister?
I don't go around lobbying for these positions. Everybody knows. I don't. Well, I see what they go through, and if the opportunity comes for me, and my name is put out there, yes. But I don't go out lobbying for these positions.
Were you surprised that you were not considered?
Not at all. I enjoy what I do here, and if you know what I do in Parliament, the work of the Finance Committee and what I have done in the last 4 years, then maybe you tell whoever is president one day that this is one of the key appointments you have to make. You should be concerned about who is your chairman of the Finance Committee. If you really understand the work we do here, it is key. It is key to the work of the government. So I have learned a lot in the space of 4 years. You can imagine the former chairman, Aveji, having held on to it for 8 years. He knows the economy inside out. He understands how the economy operates and everything. So I have learned a lot. I come from a background where I was in academia. I've worked as a research economist at the Bank of Ghana. And so this opens my eyes into public finances better. So if I combine all of it, I think I'm good.
Looking at the background, and I know a bit of that, I mean, you've really served. You were at the Bank of Ghana.
Yes.
I mean, you were very senior at the Bank of Ghana. I mean, coming into a government that the economy seemed to be very important for them. There were many who thought Marcus Sibe is definitely a candidate for a significant ministerial position. You might have thought so too, if you've been brutally honest.
So for me, maybe it must be finance, or then I don't think I will fit in well, you know. So I see my senior colleague, Dr. Antonio Akutose, for instance, who had been Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, and now he's a minister. The question is, do you want to be a minister at any ministry, or would he fit in well at where, in his strong suit, you know? So I don't know. Some people would prefer to be minister wherever, but for me, being chairman of the Finance Committee over the last 3.5 years, I think I've enjoyed the work. And
I wonder because you say that, were you considered for some other position?
No, nobody called me. I didn't go anywhere I've been to.
Not at all?
No.
That definitely must surprise you. You just being brutally honest about that. That definitely must surprise you.
But there are so many others here. There are 169 of us.
But I'm talking about Dr. Marcus Sibe.
Well, my time will come.
Was there at least a bit of disappointment?
That I wasn't made a minister.
At all, or
no.
Considered?
Maybe I would have been disappointed if I was bypassed as chairman of the committee. Because at the time, Honorable Akutose insisted that I be made the chairman of the Finance Committee. That is, I'm talking about January 2017. Mind you, deputy ministers were appointed somewhere in March. So one of the early considerations was who was chairing which committee. And this is, I was made chairman of the Finance Committee January 2017. So this is a decision you have to make very early in your government, who chairs the committees in Parliament. Well, at that time, we are now putting out the list of ministers. You haven't even got into deputy ministers, and I wasn't going to be made a full Minister of Finance, for example. So all things considered, I gladly took the chairmanship of the committee in January of 2017. You
said your time will come. When do you hope that will be?
I'm in politics for the long haul.
Oh, you haven't given up?
I'm not running for MP again. That's when we leave here 6th January, that will be it. But I'm still an MPP man. I'm still in politics. So whenever the opportunity presents itself, we'll see.
You hope sometime soon?
Somebody has to decide, you know, whether to put you in. But this fascination about minister, for me, it's not like that. You know, the way people want to be ministers and they will do everything to be, no, not me.
How is your relationship with President Akufo Addo?
So my dad was a lawyer. They were contemporaries, so he would be my dad's friend, you know. But for me, I'm 46. The president is what, 77 next March. So not only the president, Speaker Okwe, I only got closer to him when he became speaker. I think they are in a certain category, the big people in the party. Mind you, I had not been here. I had been away for 8 years. I only came back to Ghana in 2009. Okay, so all the 4 years I wasn't here. So those years when they were ministers, I was in Ghana. I came back 2009. The party was in opposition. I was doing my teaching at Gimpa, then to the central bank. As a matter of fact, when I came to Parliament, nobody knew me, because I wouldn't come to Parliament and meet. They didn't know me. So the first time, the first time I came to Parliament was when I had won a seat and we were being sworn in. I didn't come around here to do anything. That's why I'm saying that's how I do my politics. I stay
invisible.
Yeah, and it has served me well. You know.
So it explains a lot. So the man who is making the decisions didn't know you.
I'm sure he knows me. That's why I gave you my dad's connection.
Yes, I mean, but that's your dad. But the man himself, Dr. Marcus Sibe Yeboah, Nanado, didn't know you.
I was a parliamentary candidate when he ran in 2012. When the candidate comes to your constituency, you ride with him in his car.
Yeah, but that is such a brief experience.
Yeah, but anyways, I think he knows me. But let us know this minister thing, Evans.
No, I mean, the background I didn't know this before, that you had come in 2009, you said.
Yes, having been away for 8 years.
For 8 years, and so that disconnection maybe must have been a factor.
A factor in what?
A factor in, I guess, your eventual, what transpired in the primaries.
Which primary?
Your non-consideration for a senior ministerial position, and the view out there generally by people who think that somebody in power at the Jubilee House either was a disconnect or didn't like you.
I think the decision,
I'm sure you would have heard that view.
The decision was made by the 572 people who voted in Akufo Addo.
I know things happen.
Yeah.
These people,
the 572.
yes, things happen to influence that particular outcome.
200 of them voted for me.
Yeah, but 300 plus did not.
But you see, in 2012 they voted for me. In 2016 again they voted for me.
But now power has changed, and so the forces had more influence over the delegates. And you have been in politics for a while. You know these forces actually have an influence.
Well,
you don't have any disappointment at all?
No. Evans, maybe you have to get to know me. I'm fulfilled. Okay, that's what I'm telling you. These positions don't mean anything to me. They don't. There's nobody in this country who will tell you that when the MPP won power, I came to them to go lobby for anything for me. Never. If my name is pulled out and somebody says, based on your competencies, I want you to do this for me, I will gladly do it. I don't go around looking for these office. Ministers come to my office. A lot of them are my friends. They are not super human beings. Okay, it's a call to serve. There might be trappings of power. I've been MP for 8 years. I don't have a driver. I drive myself. Do you understand? So, do I need to be a minister now to find a driver? You know what I mean? There are ministers who don't go around with security, but they are entitled to policemen. There are others who are not entitled to policemen, but who go around with policemen. Is that all we see? Yes, so it depends on your philosophies and what you believe in. But listen, I've been MP for 8 years. I thank the people for the opportunity they gave me to serve. And the good thing is that everybody in this country knows what I represent.
Dr. Marcus Sibe Yeboah is my guest on PM Express. I want to take a break. When I return, I will share with him some of the very interesting views that have been shared publicly Because many were surprised at his defeat because of what they knew him to have represented as a member of parliament and as a chair of the finance committee. Stay with me. When we return, we'll talk about that. But then we'll talk about a field that he's very comfortable in. That is his forte, like the economics of this particular country and his work as a chairman of the finance committee. We'll go into a bit of his legacy as well. What does he think his legacy is as a chair of the finance committee, especially with the media budget review upon us on Thursday? Stay with us. Dr. Marcus Sibebwa is still my guest on PM Express. He is the Member of Parliament for New Job and South. He is also the chair of the Finance Committee in Parliament. Dr. Marcus Sibebwa, I want to read something that the man who defeated you said in an interview with us, Mr. Ochri Yeboah, who is Ochri Befi, yes, who is the chief executive of the Free Zones Board. Quote, all those people who ran unopposed were the people the party wanted in Parliament. If you are so much needed in Parliament, you would have been protected. We can only protect an asset, somebody who is very important in the whole game. If the person is not protected, it means when the person exits, there will be no gap. He continues, nobody is indispensable. We may get a new finance committee chairman who will be the best as far as the whole political system is concerned. You agree?
So I believe in competitive elections. Okay, so I said once that if he had protected me, maybe he wouldn't have had the chance to be MP. So competition brings out the best. I think he has his strengths and he would bring something to Parliament. But the bit about the party protecting those who are assets, I don't know if the party did that. People were vetted and some were vetted out, you know. And so in a lot of instances, I don't know whether council decided that they were protecting a certain group of persons. No, but people filed their nominations and some were disqualified. So if you filed your nomination and you were disqualified, is he suggesting that there was a grand scheme to disqualify or protect some persons? I don't know. My deputy majority leader, Honorable Addo, went through a contest. Is she not important in the scheme of things? Is she not?
Well, obviously she's a minister of state and she's a deputy
majority leader.
Yes.
Yeah, she had a contest. She won by only 8 votes. She could easily have lost. So people were disqualified for all manner of reasons. But I don't know if there was a decision by council to protect some persons. So
when he says that if you are so much needed in Parliament, you would have been protected, but he goes on, it means when the person exits, there will be no gap.
I don't think there's anybody whose exit would leave a gap. Anybody who exits, somebody is coming to fill the gap. And then we look through all our, now we have 169. There are a number of names that came up for the chairmanship of the finance committee, for ministers and all that. So whatever number we bring in the next parliament, let's say 150, 170, we look through, and then those who will be ministers, that's those who will be chairman of committee, wherever, you know. Are we suggesting that in the absence of Speaker Okwe, we will not find an able speaker? Are we suggesting that in the absence of chairman Sabunsu, somebody was leader before he came? Okay, in the NDC we have seen a number of leaders: Avoka, Benkumbo, Albambagbin, now Haruna Idrisu. So there are people who are ready to step in, and so we should not overplay some of these things.
You agree then that you are not an asset, as you suggest?
Those who know my value know it. Okay? Yes, those who know my value. I know my value. Those who know my value also know it. Yes. So that's why I told you in the time after the primaries I've been here, you can look around. If you know the load of work before me and the number of people calling me, the things I have to do in the next 14 days before Parliament rises, you have no idea. I got here very early this morning. I live here. I'm one of the persons who live here late. every day. I'm here very early. Those who know my worth know it. You understand? Maybe today I do things for free because I'm MP. Tomorrow, people will be paying me to do a lot of the same things.
So it leaves me curious. Why are you so still devoted to the cause, even after such a painful defeat?
That's why I said the people have voted for me twice. In those instances, two people lost, including Michael Ochebefi himself the last time around. So if today they have decided to go in a certain direction, why should I be so bitter? Now there's government business to do. Okay, there's government business to do. That's why I'm saying the next 14 days are critical, with the media review coming Thursday, in the midst of the coronavirus and all the things we have to do. If Parliament breaks 7th August, I'm sure we might not come back till November. And even November, you will not get anybody here. So in all likelihood, all the work that there is for the Akufo Addo administration should be done in Parliament in the next 14 days. And
you're ready to help him achieve all that in 14 days, if you can.
That's what I'm saying. Those who know my work value it and they will speak to it. I've been here doing bills. I've gone on workshops since the primaries, so that the government will be re-elected.
That's your objective?
Sure. So that's so much that we have to do. We have bills from the Bank of Ghana, 2 of them, Development Finance Institutions, Borrowers and Lenders, and that we have to pass in the next 14 days. There's a Minerals Income Investment Fund Amendment Bill. We have to work on that one. There are a number of loan agreements, the number of tax waivers, the things we have to do in the next 14 days. You have no idea.
That brings me to the mid-year budget review on Thursday. What's your own quick expectations? So
the Public Financial Management Act, which underpins public finances, our public finances, says that the minister shall present the budget, the annual budget, by the 15th of November. So the minister comes by 15th of November and presents the national budget, by which time he only has 9 months of data. So the budget is presented based on 9 months of information. That's why the PFM goes further to say that by 31st July, come with a mid-year review, so that now you have 12 months of data. So one, you are able to update us on the macro performance for the whole year, 2019. Then the macroeconomic developments in the first 6 months. When the budget was being drawn, November 2019, we had not heard of coronavirus. Even China had not recorded its first case.
Yes.
Now, look at the developments. So now, we didn't have the mid-year review previously. Now the PFM mandate. So since 2017, we have been having it. So now bring a mid-year review and update us on the first 6 months. Then give us an analysis of your revenue performance, your expenditure, your financing for the first 6 months. And revise your projections too. You said GDP will grow 6.8. Now you have the opportunity, mid-year review, revise it. Exchange rate depreciation, all the macroeconomic indices. So the mid-year review requirement of the PFM is a very good one. So it gives us an opportunity to know, have a comprehensive overview of the 2019 numbers and then the performance thus far in the first 6 months of the year.
So in terms of specifics though, with coronavirus, the economy, the way it is currently, what are some of the quick top 3 things that you expect in this review? So
we want to see the extent of the hole. The minister talked about a 9.5 billion hole in revenue. Import duties have gone down. Domestic taxes have also gone down. At the time that he was coming for relief from the contingency fund, he was talking about 9.5 billion. What is the actual hole? Now, we've gone through 4 months of corona, lockdown, and post-lockdown. Now we have a fair idea of where we are heading. So what is the extent of the revenue shortfall for the whole of 2020 that he projects? It's key. Now, expenditure cuts. Because of the revenue shortfall, you are also going to align expenditure. Okay, so tell us, how much are you lowering expenditure in the face of the election? There are costs that we have to know first. And for example, the registration exercise, the election to be held in December. What are the election costs? We want to know all of these. So there are hard numbers that he has to throw out. He came for 1.2 billion for the coronavirus alleviation program. You'll recall, where health workers got some benefits, and then frontline workers were to get some bonuses. Then we were asked not to pay water bills for 3 months, and then 600 million went to MBSSI for small, micro, medium enterprises support. Where are we? So there are hard,
want an update on that?
There are hard numbers that we've borrowed 1 billion from the IMF. We've got 100 million from the World Bank. The Bank of Ghana has made 5.5 billion of 10 billion available to the government. These are issues that the minister would address. I hope so.
What you said just points to the challenge that is facing us. We're borrowing, Bank of Ghana 10 billion, 5 billion has come already. IMF, when he came, he also took some money from the stabilization fund. The question of, this is a crisis, is it not? An economic crisis.
It is. It is. If that's why I said some time ago, if even today it was announced that coronavirus does not, all of it is gone. There's no disease, coronavirus disease in Ghana. There will be an economic crisis. So there's the health crisis and then the economic crisis. Just this morning, the European Union has approved 750 billion euros for the zone, the 27 countries in the zone. Now that 750 billion euros, 390 billion of it is going as grants.
So they're not going to pay back?
Grants to
specific things.
Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, all those grants, 390 billion. And then 360 billion as loans to them. This is the European Union. From Friday all through, they read the decision this dawn. 750 billion. Go to the US and see. Numbers don't matter at this point. The debt, the deficit, people are dying. Businesses are collapsing. Have you ever had a time that church has changed the way it is now? We don't go to church as we knew church. Our kids are home, they are not going to school. So these are not normal times. So talking about borrowing, loans, whatever it takes to fix this. People are projected that this might be worse than the Great Depression.
And for the entire world.
Yes, if you know about the Great Depression. Imports are not coming in, exports are not going out as fast as we wanted. The prices are plummeting of our core exports. Nothing is working. And you know, I went to Mervyn Peak yesterday and the whole place, only a few people were having dinner there. It tells you the extent of their crisis. And these are not normal times.
Give me your Ghana specific.
Yes.
Give me your Ghana specific appreciation and assessment of this crisis and its impact on us.
So to start with, we always run budget deficits. The budget deficit just says that our revenue is far less than what we spend. That's how we run our economy. So in my lifetime, Ghana has always run budget deficits, and I'm sure going forward we'll still run budget deficits. So if you're a country that runs deficits, and then in this year your revenue is bleeding, there's a bigger hole in the revenue space, then you can imagine. To start with, you can't meet your expenditure requirements. So all the roads that you complain about that they are not being fixed, you need the revenue to fix the roads. Do you understand? All the ills that you see around and you are complaining government and this, you need the revenue. And because of the coronavirus, we have gotten into a bigger hole. We don't have the reserves that other countries have that they can tap on. We don't have a union like the European Union, which is saying that we are doling out 390 billion in grants for you. We don't have that one. So what is our recourse? Our recourse is to multilateral partners, the World Bank, the IMF, which we are members of. And then in Section 30 of the Bank of Ghana Act, in emergencies, the Bank of Ghana can reach out to the government and lend, which they are doing. So we have to take advantage of the tools available to us. Otherwise, there's no help coming from anywhere. So that's where we are. It's a big hole. And if you look at the health side, yesterday the Deputy Minister of Health said testing alone has cost us about $34 million. And we are not done with the testing. Nobody is paying for testing. We'll keep on testing. So that is the extent of the crisis. And so everybody has to forget about numbers now. We are not going to talk about deficits and the debt, and but we have to be accountable to the people. In as much as we are taking monies from the central bank, from the fund, from the bank, we have to account for how these have been.
And also the question about how are we going to pay back all these that we borrow? So
we are asking for moratoriums. The MBSSI money that is going to small business, they have been given a 2-year moratorium. The Bank of Ghana lending gives government 2-year moratorium. The IMF loan was at 0 interest. All of them recognize that these are not normal times. Beyond this, we should be asking for debt forgiveness. Some debt has to be forgiven at some point. Okay, most of these have not been our faults. We didn't ask that the pandemic should break out. But in the face of the pandemic, we are suffering. There has to be some debt forgiveness at some point. And all of those are issues which will be considered in the new year.
I know you say that the numbers at this point do not matter, but the government, and they say with the collusion of the Finance Committee, the MPP members, have collectively been massaging the deficit numbers.
We don't do that here. The Parliament is not involved in, you see, otherwise I would have shown you a copy of the media review. No, we don't get close to it. The ministry does their own thing so that we can scrutinize. Okay, so the ministry churns out numbers. What has happened and what...
So what you say though, why is it that when the finance minister presented the revised 2020 budget and fiscal gaps, he said that the fiscal deficit and public sector debt were 4.7%
yes,
and 58% of GDP.
Sure.
But the IMF gave us completely different figures, which is 9.5% and 68.7% respectively. Quite different from what the finance minister told Parliament.
We have explained this over and over. Somebody is not listening. Okay. The deficit figure there, if you have the document, it will say that excluding the financial sector bailout and the energy sector costs. Okay?
Why might he exclude it though?
Yes. The government has had to pay 20 billion cedis to clean up the financial sector. Did the government cause that? These were unexpected. As at the time President Akufo Addo was campaigning in 2016, did he say that he was coming to pay depositors of Unibank and UT Bank and Capital Bank and the rest? No. Somebody had sat at the bank, the central bank, and giving out liquidity support to all of these people who had in turn giving them out to their related parties, and then we're not paying. GN Bank, if you wrote a check for 500 Ghana, it was dishonored. They will tell you come back at 1 o'clock, come back the next day. Banks were not able to honor checks. That was what was happening. The financial system was collapsing. The government now steps in and says that, well, we are revoking the licenses of these banks. A receiver takes over. And now the government has to find money to pay depositors, you and I. Savings and loans. Go and check what these Ideal Finance and the rest were doing. Now, government is paying them, and he's saying that I recognize this as part of the expenditure. So I'm giving you figures. This is the deficit, excluding the financial sector cleanup. The fund says that they are categorizing it all together. So,
but that is the right approach then.
No,
because it's a hit on the government pocket.
You see, it gets technical. Do you understand? In the financing, the government recognizes it as part of the debt, but the government is saying that the deficit is a flow, if you like, for the year. So the expenditure minus the revenue for the year. The debt is a stock, it adds up. So the government recognizes it in the debt that my total stock of debt. It is part of it. But for the year, this cleanup has been happening over time. The government issues a bond. And so when the government issues a bond, which he has done for a lot of Ghanaians, he's saying that the interest on the bond per year, I'll capture it in my deficit. But I cannot capture the entire 10 billion that I have spent issuing a bond for 10 billion in this year's deficit. Through no fault of his. And the government has been transparent about all of these. People should be in jail for all of this that has happened. And they are the ones right now on rooftops saying the government is massaging numbers. Okay? People should be in jail.
For the banking collapse?
Well, sure. We have stacks of reports here.
I thought your finance committee did some probe into this.
We did.
But you didn't recommend this.
No, we did. Our report never came out because we were advised, and good advice by lawyers, that having invited all of these people and then taking evidence from them, if we put it out there, now that there are people in court contesting a lot of these, they were going to, you remember the impugning and Dr. Charles Rekubwe issues. So we didn't publish our report. We've gathered a lot of evidence, and all of these, some of them sit here in my office.
But you could give it to the appropriate state agencies.
Yes,
looking at this to look at.
The Bank of Ghana is food. The Bank of Ghana is frustrated
with
all of these people go to arbitration. When the law's 930 permits arbitration, people go for arbitration. And when they have lost arbitration, now they go to court. The law says that you can go for arbitration. And so people are using all these legal routes.
But it's curious that you spent all the resources to do a probe and it's sort of not used. At least you can give it to Attorney General, you can give it to the Bank of Ghana and all those agencies.
To the extent that they want information, but we are not going to publicize this for it to create problems in terms of having gathered evidence from people and then you put these out. And
giving it to them is not necessarily putting it out. I mean, right agencies will have it.
But Evans, I cannot be telling you the information I share with the central bank and that.
But have you shared information?
A lot of information. We work with these institutions on a daily basis. The governor was my boss at the central bank, and so I have direct access to him whenever the need arises. But what this government has done in cleaning up the financial, now we have a stronger financial sector, stronger. So you write checks and they are handed, and all those depositors have been paid. I hope you are aware. Save those with SEC, the securities and the fund management.
That is something I would interrogate briefly when we return from the break, because that is a big subject. I mean, the government's first most controversial action when it comes to the economy was begin the cleanup in the banking sector in 2017. If you remember, with the Capital Bank and then the UT going down. This has come full circle. Their term is ending. I wonder, he says that the banking sector is stronger. Is it really? And why haven't we seen the prosecutions that were promised at the start of the administration in 2017? And then the mid-year budget review, some of the things that we've talked about, the discrepancy in the figures between the IMF and the government of Ghana, will they be corrected in the mid-year budget review? And of course, remember that this is the final review of the Akufo Addo government, and so big things are riding on it. Will they meet expectations? Stay with us. You're still with me on PM Express. My guest is Dr. Mark Sibe Yeboah. Doc, so you say that the banking sector cleanup has resulted in the stronger banking sector. The reason why this is important is it's probably one of the most significant actions the president took in his first year in 2017. It's come full circle. It's just about exiting and finishing his first term. Nobody has still been successfully been prosecuted yet. A lot of the people whose money has been locked up still completely haven't been paid. People are really suffering as a result of that. But you say the banking sector is stronger. In what sense?
The banking sector is stronger in the sense that we have what we use in measuring the strength of bank. Capitalization. Prior to this administration coming into office, the minimum capitalization of banks was 120 million, if you recall. 120 million Ghana cedis. And then the Bank of Ghana required that it be moved to 400 million. So now, every bank, the surviving banks, each of them is capitalized in the minimum 400 million. There were a few local banks, if it were Prudential, UMB, ADB, NIB, OmniB, SIC, that had needed support. And then there was a GATT arrangement, and a Ghana Amalgamated Trust, where their capital has been shored up. So all of them are well capitalized. If you look at their assets that the banks hold, clearly they are stronger. They are doing big ticket businesses now, all the banks that survived the cleanup. And so the weak ones fell by the side. UT and Capital Bank, for instance, they were taken over by GCB. The Consolidated Bank took over 5 banks: Royal Bank, Unibank, Beige, is it Sovereign, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not as though these banks were went out of, were extinct, as it were, but these were taken over by some other banks, and they are stronger, well capitalized, and their assets are there to show. Everybody who had deposits with banks, savings and loan, microfinance has been paid.
Everybody.
Everybody.
That's a bold statement. When you say everybody, every single person.
Banks, savings and loans, microfinance. To the extent that your paperwork is good, you've been paid.
And what's the evidence of this?
Evans, this is the work I do. So
I'm asking because because we still have people calling.
You are alleging, then you would have to.
I'm just asking the questions because we still have people who call and say they still haven't been paid.
SEC, there are depositors. There are people who place funds with fund managers. Those that are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So, for example, somebody might have had their funds with GN Bank, okay, but if you had funds with Gold Coast Securities. That is regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. That is the difference. So somebody will say, oh, my money is with Indum's Bank, but it might be Gold Coast Securities, fund manager. So somebody had their money with Unibank. It's different from having your money with Uni Securities. Do you understand? Unicredit was even savings, but Uni Security, that's the problem. So Beige had the bank, the pensions, the securities. Do you understand? So if you had monies with the fund manager, regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, there is some work going on. There are some legal tussles being smoothing before those. But savings and loans, microfinance, banks, all of them have been.
And this is evident before your committee?
I speak to the regulator. Okay, to the receiver. Sorry. Okay, Eric Nana Nipa is the one who's doing this work. All of them. The thing is that the government has issued bonds. So everybody got some 70,000, and the rest have been issued as bond, which will be paid over 5 years. So you have FIFA. You understand? And then there's a 0 coupon on it, and you'll be paid annually for the next 5 years. So that has been done.
That is a form of payment you're talking
about. Yes, but you can discount it if you want to.
But why would a person discount?
Because it's 0 coupon, so there's no interest on it for the next 5 years. So if you like money like me, you want to get it right now. Why 5 years? Do you understand? Somebody might die before the 5 years, so why don't you get your money now? So you can do that. But those with the fund managers, those are the ones outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, but that clearly, for those, but that group of people, that is still an issue.
Those are regulated by SEC. Try and talk to Reverend Obami. He will explain some of these issues.
But as a chair of the finance committee, though, you should be interested in why that process hasn't been as fast-tracked.
I told you there are some legal issues
that are pending. Well, what exactly are they?
In the case of the banks, immediately following the revocation of the licenses, the Bank of Ghana appoints a receiver, and he kickstarts the process. I think there is a gap in the SEC law that does not give the regulator SEC the authority to appoint a receiver immediately following, and it has to go to court, and sometimes a court appoints a receiver, sometimes the regulator does it itself, and there are some issues, and some are contesting it. SEC has to open their books and validate claims, and so if somebody takes you to court, and then the court says that wait, then I can't verify and validate claims. Okay, so it's not a matter of SEC not being ready or government not being ready, but these are being contested.
Yeah, let's return to the budget review. I mean, you've talked about the fact that we're currently facing an economic crisis, and so it begs the question why recently, at least in the last 2 weeks, Parliament has granted so many tax waivers to businesses, etc., that were doing business with government. For example, a controversial one with importation of mart sets, you're giving more than 3 million euros in tax waivers to the private company that is involved in bringing the mart sets in. That's not the only one. There have been a few others that Parliament has approved and decided to do. But I'm curious though. At the time when you say revenues are short, at the time when we are in crisis, that we need every money we can get, and we are borrowing quite heavily, and we're still wondering how we are going to finance, is that the most prudent thing to do, to be giving tax waivers to private businesses that are doing business with us?
So in the specific case of Bluegrass Company that's importing the mart sets, it is doing so on behalf of WAEC. I didn't even know the head of office. They came to the finance committee, the West African Examinations Council. They are saying these are not mart sets; these are scientific mathematical instruments.
But with the greatest of respect, the only difference he has is that he has a calculator on top.
Yeah, there's a mart set component,
and there's a calculator.
So why are you not calling it a calculator? Why are you calling it a mart set?
But it's a set. I mean, so
I said the name is scientific mathematical instrument.
Okay, so but just for purposes of our listeners, the only difference is the typical mart set with the instruments. It is transparent and it has a calculator, a very basic calculator, by the way.
It's not basic.
I have seen it. It's a very basic calculator.
Where did you see it?
On the net.
Which net? This is
I went to KPEC website. I went to the KPEC website. In fact, I tried to place an order myself. So I have really scrutinized it.
Yeah, but do you know the customized one that is coming?
It is with the greatest of respect. If you go to the KPEC website, you can customize it and order.
Yes. So
if I could pick up my laptop and order a customized KPEC mart set right now.
When we say it is customized, you customize it to the extent that I want. Because I will tell you I want these functions on it. So let's wait for WAEC to. In any event, those mart sets are required by the member countries in the sub-region. The scientific instruments. They are saying that because of exam or practices, now we are not going to allow students to come into the exams or with their own calculators, mart set wristwatches. Nigeria has been doing this for the last 4 years. We are now coming on board. So the Ministry of Education, in conjunction with WAEC, has ordered this. And as part of the agreement, they are saying that the private vendor should be exempted from taxes. If I'm the private vendor and you don't exempt me from taxes, I'll just add it on to the cost. Okay, so that $3.2 million you are talking about, if you don't exempt the private vendor, these are duties that they have to pay at the ports. If you don't exempt him, he'll just add it to the cost. So it's a decision for the government to make. Do I exempt the taxes, or that 75 cedis now goes to 100 cedis or thereabout? And WAEC, they charge for their exams, I hope you know.
Yes.
So if government doesn't support them, they'll just add it to the cost of examinations for students to pay. WAEC says that you have to use this CAPEC scientific mathematical instrument in my exam. It is 100 cedis per student. I will supply it. You pay. What will you do? You pay for the exam. So government is taking some of the burden off parents.
Yeah, I mean, but this private company is still going to...
We are not doing the private company any favor.
Why? We are.
If you don't exempt the taxes, he will add it to the cost. We do these waivers every day. They will tell you that if you don't exempt the taxes, I will add it to the cost. So instead of the 12 million, it will be 15 million. So he brings it in and pays the duties back. So we are taking it to the left arm.
I did the basic check of this particular mart sets. It's sold on Amazon for £13, which is just shy of 100 cedis. What we've given them, and I saw your report, it's 75, 74, I mean.
So you're saying it's about 100 cedis?
Yes, just about.
Okay, good.
I mean,
I haven't checked.
75 cedis per set.
Yes.
That's what they're selling us for.
Yes.
So I did a difference of 18 between what they sell out on the market and what they're giving to us, 18 cedis.
Yeah.
Is 18 cedis per set different savings that we are making justify the 3.2 billion.
But you should have gone the next step to do the further math. We are buying 853,009 sets. So do 853,000 times 18. You know what I mean? Yes.
So you think it's justified?
I haven't done. You have been working all the
I'm just sharing with you what we found.
Yeah, I'm saying that if
that 18 cities times the 800,000 plus
3,000 pieces, do the math.
That saving is justified.
Yeah. But a number of other waivers that we are doing are in connection with the 1D, 1F.
Yeah.
One district, one factory. Parliament itself has approved the granting of waivers. You know, this flagship program, what it stands for. And so waivers come every now and then. And we didn't give a blanket waiver. We are saying that every single project should come to Parliament for us to scrutinize. As we speak, I have to lay one today for Casapreco. I have held it because I am asking a few more questions before. And I have to go lay that one. All of these in connection with 1D, 1F. So they come in. Sometimes we even lower the threshold. The waivers that are brought in from finance, we lower it at the finance committee.
Yeah, I mean, so that your fundamental point, in spite of the crisis we are in, all the waivers are justified, and it's okay to.
Not all of them. We take them case by case, and if you don't,
the ones you've approved so far are all justified. If
you don't grant the waivers, they will add it to the cost of the goods. That's what. But in respect of 1D, 1F, we are boosting production. This is not a supply. We are saying that you are going to production and then you need some, it could be stimulus, it could be a waiver, government is supporting you so that these ones.
But is that what we need to be doing in a time of crisis?
Mind you, some of these have been agreed to several years.
But times have changed.
Yes, but if you are, if I have gone into this 1D, 1F and you have promised me that I should bring in machinery, you are going to exempt me from taxes. Now you are telling me that it is even in these dire times that we have to be giving more impetus to some of these things, stimulus, waivers, so that the economy does not collapse.
Finally, what does the future hold for Dr. Marcus Sibe Yeboah, knowing that in January 20...
Find some space for me at Multimedia. Find some space for me.
You want to consult for us?
Yeah, we'll come. Find space for me at Multimedia.
What do you want to do at Multimedia?
Resident economist.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean, but seriously, you're still going to be a politician?
I mean, I'm in politics for the long haul, but I'm not going back to the...
You will not contest again for that seat?
No.
Okay. But when you say you're in politics for the long haul, then what would you be doing?
There are a lot of politicians around who are not MPs. There's 6 big portfolios, if you like. The finance minister, the trade minister, the agric minister, the energy minister, attorney general, national security. None of them is an MP.
Okay.
But Foyata, Alan Chairman, Kandapa, Gloria, Kufu, Amewu, Uswefri, Akoto.
But they are ministers, and so that makes a difference.
They are politicians. That's what I'm saying. They are politicians, so they got to wherever they are by virtue of that.
I mean, because when you cite those examples, I'm tempted to ask you then, is it your hope that one day you become a minister then?
If the opportunity presents itself, so be it. I don't live to become a minister. Do you understand? I don't live my life to become a minister.
Okay. But that clearly appears to be an ambition of yours.
To be a minister?
Yes.
You think the minister position is the best job?
No, because when I ask you what the future holds, you say you cite ministers.
Because you talked about politics and that you said I was still in politics. So I was telling you that being a politician doesn't mean you should be an MP.
Okay. But you can be a minister.
Listen, I've taught at the university in America.
Okay.
I've taught at Gimpa.
Would you do something in private? I guess.
Yeah, so listen, I've worked at the Bank of Ghana. I've become an MP for 8 years. Now, all my life should be restricted to this last thing that I've done. I've done so many things in my life.
So what will you be doing from next year?
My wife wants me to stay home for 6 months.
You become a house husband?
That's what she's suggesting. So.
For 6 months?
Yes.
And then after 6 months?
I will take guidance from her.
I see. Dr. Marcus Sibe, I'm grateful that you joined me on PM Expert. That's Dr. Marcus Sibe, and wish him well in his future endeavors. But you'll be campaigning aggressively for Nanado, I guess.
So everybody does their bit. What I'm going back to the chamber to do.
There's a form of it.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, ladies and gentlemen, and join us again tomorrow.